I know words. I have the best words.
This is All the Best Words with Matt Murphy and Cameron Smith.
Did I tell you that we have had the most successful tomato crop in our lives? Like we tried to grow tomato plants for years in Helena to no success. And we've now had the most successful tomato crop. These were volunteer tomatoes that grew out of a burn pit in our backyard.
Yep.
And I mean, a lot of like cherry tomatoes.
Yeah.
Like more than we can. I mean, we're giving them away. And I'm like, and we can't stop them from growing. And, and you can't like kill it, right? Like,
no, it is. So you got a couple more months, but it is a nightshade vine. And so people got all these weird ideas about tomatoes that like they need all these structures and everything. No.
Well, but you know what the cool thing is that I had put some dead limbs into the burn pit with the anticipation of burning them. And it's not a big thing. It's about as big as that coffee table. And 2 separate tomato plants. We must have thrown a tomato in there at some point. Well, obviously there's some ash in there, and it's just presenting the perfect opportunity. So the tomatoes have grown through those, and so they're naturally propped up. It's a natural system.
Perfect.
Oh, it's so good. Could not replicate it if my life depended on it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of All the Best Words. My name is Matt Murphy, and occasionally I say all the best words.
My name's Cameron Smith, and also occasionally I write all the best words.
And we appreciate you being here today. I guess occasionally on these episodes, for those that find us on social media platforms, primarily YouTube, but we're on a lot of different platforms, occasionally we should kind of identify ourselves in a more robust manner. And I'll start with Cameron. Cameron not only writes nationally, but he's based in Nashville, Tennessee, and he writes for the Tennessean, and he does a great job in every column that I've ever read, even if I disagreed with it.
Yeah. Matt is everything I know about radio, I learned from Matt Murphy. We go way back from Alabama to now the great Matt Murphy show, based out of Nashville, and I get to be a guest on his show periodically, and Cumulus, we get to engage one another in this lovely podcast.
So if you find us here first, then I would invite you to seek us out there later, either through Cameron's writing platforms or my speaking platforms, which is why we say what we say at the beginning of every episode, just to make sure you understand that. So with all that said, let's go first. Go, you.
Me. Huh?
I'm very confused. I'm high on pain medication and shoulder drugs.
Yes, he's rebuilt. He's been
they said
amputated,
they would make me better, and
put back together. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Matt, my word is intel. This, and I'm not talking about intelligence and CIA or anything. I'm talking about the chip maker, Intel. Yeah. So there's this deal floating around that Trump has started to put forth that he's floating converting grants that were previously issued. You remember when we had the chip maker stuff happening that we passed this, what I called was a boondoggle for chip makers, but it was saying, well, we need to make chips here in the U.S., so it was billions of dollars in grants to these chip makers, right? What he's floating now is $10.9 billion of these grants converted into an ownership stake of Intel, which is about 10% of their shares. And we've seen this in a couple of other places. It's a little bit different with AMD and NVIDIA, where chips exported to China, the U.S. gets a 15% stake. There's the Nippon Steel purchase of U.S. Steel. Trump got the U.S. government in sort of could revoke certain aspects inside that corporate thing. The Pentagon's in certain companies. We're seeing this, and what got my attention was that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are on board with this. And they said, if we're going to do this, we need to get an equity stake. We need an ownership stake in these companies. And you know where else they do that? China. China has
they want the government to have an ownership stake? Yeah.
And as a conservative, I'm like, wait a minute. The fact that Trump, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren are on the same page saying the United States government should own 10% of Intel, I get the idea of, okay, if taxpayers are giving out grants to private companies, they should get something in return.
How about cheaper chips?
I like that idea. Or I like we're loaning you this money.
Yeah.
Right? It is a low interest loan or something to give you an advantage if we want to do that.
And you can do abatements to the companies that use your company instead of foreign companies, and then you get more business that way and pay the
There's a
loan back.
lot of ways to do this where you want to help a specific industry. You know me, a free market guy. I don't really love the government playing in private industry at all, but there's ways to do it where you don't own it, right? Where there's still a bright line between public space, private space. And I don't like where this is going. I think it's a problem. I think we should say, we can do other things, but let's not structure it in a way where the United States government has an ownership here. We didn't even really like it when we did the stimulus and we bailed out all those automakers.
No.
Republicans were like, this is gross.
No.
But that was loans.
I hated the whole bank bailout in 08, the too big to fail.
Right.
Hated it. And I hate this. I did not know about this, but I hate it too, because you and I just came up with a better idea, right?
Right.
You loan them the money. You incentivize American companies to buy American by giving them some sort of tax break on the back end.
Sure.
That Intel gains more market share and can pay the loan back.
Right. And,
Right.
and that's good for taxpayers. It's good, if we want to do, we're not going to stop doing economic development stuff. I get that. But there's ways that we just articulated to structure this. China owns a controlling interest of the private enterprises in its country. 10% is not a controlling interest, but it is a stake. And I don't like the idea of bureaucrats or politicians sitting on the board or having a representation in private enterprise, because now the taxpayers are on the hook for how this company performs, right?
Yeah.
And so if it comes to between this company competing with another company, well, guess what? We got to choose this company, and that gets cronyist really fast.
Well, and for me, you create that financial stake first off, and that leads to a kind of a psychological stake.
Yes.
Meaning that, this is a national security interest, therefore the government of the United States of America should be in charge of it. And, frankly, I'm not surprised that it hasn't been suggested yet that be the case, right? And when that happens, the government is going to want to take over the means of the production of that.
Which is what Bernie Sanders loves.
Which is what he loves, because that is literally
and so
socialism.
this is the hard part. Is Trump suggest something, is floating something. Scott Bessent, is out there saying the same thing.
Or Bessent.
Bessent, I don't know.
I don't know.
But ultimately, he's sitting there saying, we've got to do this. And we just be screaming stop. That no, absolutely not. And it's because it's Trump that so many Republicans are like, maybe.
You tackle the perversion of the free market, which I understand that China perverts. I mean, China doesn't really, it's not an honest player in the free market space.
Right.
But you attack that by using the free market against them.
Right.
Instead of doing what they do.
Doing what they do.
Right. It's a perfect example. All right. So my word is détente.
Détente.
Oh, it's fancy.
It is.
Détente.
That is a pinky word.
Détente, a cessation of hostilities, right? So we saw, I think, a good faith effort. I think you have to have Trump derangement syndrome not to believe at this point that Donald Trump, whatever you think his motivations are, maybe it's ego, narcissism, whatever, insidious motivation that you think he has, he is making an effort to stop entanglements around the globe. And in very Trumpian fashion, right? He says, well, I've stopped 6 wars. Well, you haven't stopped 6 wars.
Right.
But hostilities between countries that were, quote unquote, in conflict in some form or fashion, Donald Trump has been involved in stopping escalation of those conflicts during his second term in office. So I think his heart is obviously in the right place in doing these types of things. And I think he has changed tactics regarding Ukraine, Russia. And the latest week and a half, 2 weeks, I think demonstrates his earnestness in trying to get this done. I don't think he's going to get it done because I don't think that at least one of the players, I'm not so sure about Zelensky. I think Zelensky, probably when all is said and done, obviously wants the warring to stop in his country. I don't know what's in his heart and in his mind, but I would fall on the side of he wants all of this to stop. His people are dying, and they're taking over his country. And he wants as much of his country back as he possibly can. And he makes grandiose statements about wanting it all back.
Right.
And I don't even think he believes that. But I don't think Vladimir Putin, he came to America. That was a good thing. The media is never going to give Trump any of the credit for this. So if Trump did nothing, they would blame him for doing nothing. He does something, and they blame him for doing something. Either he's Putin's puppet or he's bowing before Putin or whatever. But I don't believe that Vladimir Putin is earnestly trying to do what he can to bring about a resolution to this, because I think he truly believes that he can get all of Ukraine, because he knows something that the rest of us know too, and that is the United States of America is not prepared to go to war with him. That the American people, the psyche, now our military, sure. Our military leadership, sure. But I don't think that Putin believes that there is any option on the part of the United States or the European Union to do anything further than what we are already doing in terms of sanctions. Now, maybe I'm miscalculating how sanctions are hurting him, but I don't think he believes that we're going to do anything military.
No, I think one of the things I've learned in this space is my perspective as a commentator is much clearer than the realities of diplomacy. So I know that Russia's the aggressor here. I know that Putin is a KGB flunky who's not a good faith actor. Like, I can say all of that because I'm analyzing the situation as it exists.
We're not in the room.
I'm not trying to negotiate, right? And so I'm going to reserve judgment a little bit here on where Trump is and what he can actually accomplish. What I do think is Trump is a New York real estate guy who wants to make a deal. And so when he's caught on a hot mic saying, I think he wants to make a deal with me, I genuinely think he believes that. Now, I think Putin, because of his KGB training, is an expert at manipulating people. And so Trump wants something genuinely that I think is very real. And Putin is very much playing into that and saying, sure, but here's the deal. I'm not going to compromise at all. But you give me more. Let's talk. He's stalling, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's not in a position of retreat. He is sort of gradually grinding. If you look at history, Battle of Stalingrad with Russia versus the Nazis, the Russians just threw bodies at it, right?
That's what they do.
And they don't care, like how many people died. There's not going to be any public outcry in Russia from the number of Russians that have died here. We'll just keep throwing bodies at it and keep grinding. He's not in a position of retreat. And what he's saying is, if through diplomacy you want to give me what I'm going to take, that makes it easier for me.
Well, and I appreciate the clarity that Trump has provided the American people on where he is on this. He wants peace. He wants the end of the killing. He says he's willing to give, certain financial security arrangements to the Ukrainians, our mineral rights deal and other things. But he's not willing to put boots on the ground. He'll offer military support in terms of material. He'll offer air support. He agreed to that this week, but he made it clear that we're not going to have boots on the ground. I think most American people appreciate hearing that, but at the same time, you're turning over a lot of cards to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, but also I think the big deal here, if you look on the map and you look at where Moscow is from the fighting, it's not actually that far. And
True.
If we give offensive capacities, whether through NATO or directly, we sell them, we loan them, however we want to do it, we don't have to put boots on the ground. But the moment that Ukraine has more offensive capacities, the dynamic starts changing for Putin. Right now, he's like, well, we're fighting in your territory.
Right.
It's not my home turf.
We're breaking your crap.
Occasionally something happens here, but very rarely. Once that dynamic changes, he'll come to the table and probably have to do something. But until Ukraine can deliver some real blows into the interior of Russia, I don't think anything changes.
Well, I don't know if we're any closer or not to cessation of hostilities, but, one can hope and one can give Trump credit. The mainstream media probably won't, at least a lot of them, but one can give Trump credit for at least giving it a go and being earnest in his attempt to do that, no matter how, bad of an actor Vladimir Putin is on the other side. I look at the old clock on the wall, Cameron, and I see that it's time to go once again. Tell them to hit the like and subscribe button. I tell them all the time and they don't do it.
Well, if you could hit the like or subscribe button, we would be in your debt.
It would help us out a great deal. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on All the Best Words.